Hey everybody, welcome back. My name is Anna from Astraladytarot. Today we are doing a full flip through of one of my favorite decks, the Crow's Magic Tarot. So this is a vintage out of print deck from the 90s. These are the backs, fully reversible as you can see. And I've talked on my channel about main decks and mood decks, and this one is definitely somewhere in the middle. It's more of an intuitive deck for me that has so many things wrong with it. I've talked about it a lot. I'm not finished talking about it, but I love it very much. And there's just this connection that I have with these cards. Yeah, so much I don't love about it, so much that's wrong with it, but it's always in a loving way because all of those wrong things, like the computer art, the big fat copyright, the keywords, yeah, just some cards that are just plain ugly, you could say, I actually love. So it's a very interesting relationship that I have with this deck. What I wanted to do today is to go through this entire deck and show you what I think of these cards, how I read some of them. And basically, I think this is not a main deck, this is not a mood deck, this is really somewhere in between. So it's like a middle deck or a mystical deck or a magic deck. I don't really know. All I know is that I love it. Now, this is a deck published by US Game Systems. There's also a larger version of it with the big guidebook, but I don't have that guidebook. I do have some little printouts of the guidebook though. Lana Marks, the creator of this deck, explains in her guidebook that in the 80s she was a professional costume designer for heavy metal or glam type bands. She explains, time and time again, I wondered if, upon the ritual journey to God, I would also meet and experience other things along the way. My independent and stubborn nature wouldn't accept that Catholicism is a series of rituals and prayers based on pure faith with no tangible evidence. I actually really like this Justice card. It's so strange, but I like that it has a very clear crow or raven head, and it's very fiery actually, isn't it? It's this half human creature figure, and something about that light coming from below, it looks very important, very intimidating even. I didn't trust the obvious. It was too easy. As early as first grade, I became introverted. This wheel of fortune always reminds me of some sort of a UFO. This already encaptures a part of that meaning of the strength card, where the figure in the card is actually already merging with the lion. And then I began to be an artist. I began drawing my own world, friends, and symbols. Others began to mark me as a witch or strange. This is a very free temperance, don't you agree? It's a little bit wild. It's a little bit, can't really touch it, can't really grab it, can't really feel it, but it's just this expression. This was the beginning of my withdrawal into art and the start of my lifelong career. Now, if you watch closely in this tower card, there is an eye, and this eye is actually the eye of a wolf. We can see a wolf's head in there, apart, from just this very 80s looking kind of like radio tower, you could say, sending these transmissions out into the void. I was attracted to anything that was different and unusual. I wanted to know what was not supposed to be known. This moon card is very mysterious. It's, I think, the only card that has this deep blue color in this deck. And it's just so like these crows emerging from this dark place, flying into the night sky that is only illuminated by this moon, maybe even a blue moon. It really feels like I'm witnessing something that I shouldn't be seeing, something that is supposed to stay hidden, something that is a mystery. And I, of course, want to find out, but it wasn't really meant for my eyes or anyone's eyes, really. That's the feeling I get looking at this card. I really like this door opening thing. And I believe in the guidebook, Londa says that we are following this moth, we are becoming this moth, and we are free and flying through these metal or silver doors into a new dimension, into a new galaxy, into a new universe. I also can't shake the feeling that this blue bird here is actually the High Priestess. She writes, "Wearing black made me feel independent and powerful. The world is very, very busy. Actually, it's called the universe, just like in the Thoth deck. So I believe that this is autumn, winter, spring, and summer. These are alchemical symbols for the seasons. I've seen the seasons depicted in a different way as well. Edgar Allan Poe's Raven was black, poetic, and mysterious, so I was going to be like the crow. While growing up, my music interests went hand in hand with my artistic nature. I would hang out at my dad's nightclub, the Peppermint Lounge, until I discovered rock clubs and how rock music affected my art in a positive way. Now, about the crow's magic message. Londa loves birds, animals, reptiles, even certain insects. She writes, "These creatures are such great friends and guides if you allow yourself to connect with them. Unlike humans, their innocence and naivete never ends." The Suit of Wands is probably my least favorite in this deck. I love this card. It's just so beautiful. The Six of Wands and then the bear energy. And again, I think I just like these these creatures that have a human body but with an animal head. Um, I love that this bear energy that is so strong, yet it's still a man, a human. I feel that it goes very well with this success, victory feel that the Six of Wands has. It's very proud, but it's earned, you know? Dazed and Confused, I always think of the Led Zeppelin song. So there are also velociraptors in this deck, which we've also already seen in the Wheel of Fortune card. I really like that because this deck is kind of not tied to a specific time and space. It's really, I feel, as I said upon unboxing this deck or seeing this full deck, all of the cards for the first time, that we are really talking about this black void, which is how I picture the void. It's a black, something that is dark. And then from there on, all the possibilities are pretty much endless. There is this one beam of light that I can picture, that I can visualize. And then through that beam of light, all of these creatures from this entire deck come flying through or, running through, really passing through with this immense speed. For me, this deck has the energy of fire, and it's still, very tied to this surreal dream world, really a different plane, like on the astral plane, in this realm of this deck. And I kind of agree, time doesn't exist, and we are nowhere and everywhere at the same time. A lot may be learned from that. In this deck, I've made a sincere effort to connect with each one of the creatures depicted. I carefully chose the perfect representation for each card and feel that, at the very least, I have extracted and incorporated from their spirit and independence. Hopefully you will agree. She explains that her dreams guide her quite a bit, and she has dreamt of many of these cards and images. The main message woven into the Crow's Magic Tarot deck is awareness. Not only is it important to be aware when dreaming, this is a very Thelema Ace of Swords, just because here is the word Thelema written in Greek, just like the Ace of Swords in the Thoth deck. I really like this Two of Swords. It's just something about the colors that I like. We switch over to a very Rider-Waite-Smith reminiscent card, the Three of Swords with, in this case, a broken heart. Can't help but love this spiky butt. The Page of Swords are bats. Beautiful Knight of Swords. Icy Queen of Swords. The King of Swords, the Crow. But it's also essential to develop an awareness of daily occurrences and incidents. Subconsciously or not, I think that we're all aware that we're all capable of being powerful enough to find the answers we strongly need. Crows are among the most intelligent and resourceful birds. Indeed, they are quite crafty thieves and won't think twice about stealing small items of any kind, no matter who it belongs to. If they want or need it, it's theirs. Then again, if acquiring something seems to be an ordeal that takes too long or is too risky, they will just act as if they are too busy to stick around and seek out an easier target. I really like these more abstract pips as well. Here we have another more Rider-Waite-Smith system in this card because the keywords are past and reminiscence or reminisce. This plant growing out of the cup, very Marseille-like. This is the little guy that's on the back of the tuck box. Very friendly Page of Cups. In the Crow's magical tarot kingdom, the Crow is king. He is the King of Swords in this deck. He rules the cool, soothing air here, where almost all things need air to survive. There are also a few human forms and abstract objects that have enforced their powers by merging with animals or birds. These geometric shapes that I see in the Fool and the Hierophant and many other cards, I intuitively read them as knowledge that is just there floating around in the cosmos, that's just there floating around somewhere in the universe, that's for us to come out of our shell and seek and find and understand. The Little White Book, but also the guidebook, both don't explain what symbols these are. They kind of look like the Theban witch's alphabet, but they are not. And they're not runes either, at least not the types that I am familiar with. Either way, it doesn't bother me, but I realized that my personal way of reading the coins is a little bit different than what Londa explains in the book. She goes the route of wealth and work and, yeah, basically income and talking about job, all of that. And yes, it's important because it's the practical earthly realm, yet I really like to read it as well as this type of wealth that is in the body, so more like happiness. But it applies to both, obviously. About this card, the book says, Marbleized trumpets reveal sounds that filter through the dizzying air. A condor of brilliant gold spreads its wings, declaring the sky his territory. There is mysterious magnetism to this environment, and you are compelled to understand the message. I really like that the guidebook explains what animals are in the cards. The creator explains in the book that she's a fan of Edgar Allan Poe, and here we have Edgar Allan Poe book, but also Londa Tarot by Londa Marks, Stuart Kaplan, Tarot of the Witches, and Crow's Magic by Londa Marks, Medicine Card, and Encyclopedia of Tarot by Stuart R. Kaplan. Those are the books in the Eight of Coins. So it kind of feels like it's partly kind of like a ad for other decks that US Games came out with at the time. I have a feeling. But for me, it's just, yeah, it's pretty quirky, and I like that. In the guidebook, Londa explains that these colored bricks and blocks, they replace the drifting clouds. I like the way she writes. Spellbinding reptiles and other creatures pose their whimsical gestures. You feel their magic. In your sleep, they become the architects of your dream, leading you toward red clouds and solar flares. A crow turns into liquid gold as he shows you ecstasy, and you drink from this golden cup. Okay, that's it. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think of this deck. Do you have this deck? And if you do, how do you read with it? Do you read with it like a pip deck, or like maybe a very traditional Marseille, maybe more Thoth, maybe more Rider-Waite-Smith based? How do you read it? Or maybe like me, all three all the time anyway, but also more of a intuitive way, I believe. I really like this deck. Now, aesthetically, there's a lot wrong with it, but I really love it, and the connection is really there. So that's what I wanted to say, what I wanted to share. Thanks so much for being here. I will see you all in the next one.